Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. On this Sunday, our big football preview of the game show that covers all your Northeastern local sports, New York, Boston, and Philly. You can follow us live on Mac's Sports Facebook page. Just go to username at MacMan62, Facebook search, and it'll bring you right to us. You can Google the Mac and Jack Sports, find us live on YouTube and Twitch, and you can also take a look at our past shows. Follow us on Instagram at Mac and Jack Sports to see all the Northeast professional teams' news and updates. Like, follow, share where you can, even subscribe to help keep us going. We also have a new website up called macandjacksports.com. You can go there and see our weekly insiders, get a lot of great information about the world of sports. I'm Mac with my co-host, legendary boxing sports writer and former president of the National Boxing Writers Association of America, Jack Hirsch, our sports historian and gatekeeper. How you doing today, my New York friend?
Hey, good. Exciting weekend.
Yes, it is, Jack. You sound very excited this morning.
Yeah, well, listen, it's Sunday morning. It's a question like players warm up. I warm up, and then by the time the day's over, the night's done with Sunday night football. It's exhausting. It's been, hey, that was a heck of a game, Notre Dame and Clemson.
Oh,
got
yeah.
us into a good lead up into the NFL games today.
Yeah, you are totally right, and we're definitely going to touch on that this morning, Jack. Last night, I did a catering event, and it was at nighttime, so I didn't get back home till late. We were up at the local university here, and we pushed out 150 people in almost an hour, Jack, just an hour. So we were really, really pumping last night. It was fun to go out there, and with the COVID, the new restraints here in Connecticut, they've gone back down a level because, of course, the spread, as we knew in the fall, would pick back up again. So
the COVID, Mac, I'm going to tell you, it was a thrilling game, Clemson and Notre Dame. But at the end of the game, the fans swarming the field without masks on, and Brian Kelly, the Notre Dame coach, he had told his players beforehand, as soon as the game ends, he wants them running off the field. Because he predicted, he kind of knew the fans were going to swarm the field, and I understand the enthusiasm. I mean, Notre Dame hadn't beaten the number one ranked team in ages.
Right.
And that was their biggest victory in a long, long, long time. But the dangers of COVID, is a reality, okay? And I know it's hard to hold an enthusiasm.
Right.
But, yeah, I kind of wonder whether that's going to limit the crowds going forward, especially for the playoffs.
Well, Jack, I've always I've been outspoken on the other side of this. I mean, I don't know how you're not going to get rid of the COVID virus if you don't just let it, I don't want to say run its course, but the older people that are more susceptible to the virus, and the people that have conditions that might end up helping them get in a lot worse shape where they're bedridden or perhaps pass away. I think we should kind of put them to the side. But how do you stop the spread of this virus if you stay inside all the time and if you do things like this? Because that virus is still out there. And when I was a kid, Jack, when virus came around, chickenpox, the Hong Kong flu, stuff like that, the parents would put you out there with the people they knew had it so you could get it over with. So I don't know how you stop the spread of this, Jack. I have no idea.
You talked about food before. Do you know what I had for lunch yesterday?
What's
I had my lunch, Haagen-Dazs.
Right.
You know how that came about? I'm at Roosevelt Field. I had to drop off my phone. I needed a new battery. I needed my iPad checked, so on. And I had to come back in an hour. So I go to the food court. I mean, a lot of great places at the food court, but it is so packed.
Right.
So I made a decision. I didn't want to hang around, with COVID, because there's so many people there. So I see a side store Haagen-Dazs in the shopping mall. I see a little stool with a seat where I could sit on the side, out of the way. And I got myself a strawberry banana smoothie. That was my lunch. A strawberry banana smoothie.
I'll tell you the thing.
A greasy burger.
I've been to New York a few times, and the greatest thing about New York is all the stuff that you can do, all the restaurants you can go to. The choices are endless, and I love the city. I got to get back out there.
I was out on Long Island, Mac.
Well, still, I mean, I count all the boroughs together, and that. I mean, not just Manhattan. There's great places in Long Island, Brooklyn, and the Bronx, and of course in Queens. I mean, there's a lot of great places. There's so many choices. Hey, who knows? Maybe I'll come and stay overnight at your place, Jack. I don't know.
Hey, when COVID's done, you're welcome, man.
Okay, so let's get to football. That's why we're here. You mentioned Clemson Notre Dame game. Notre Dame wins in double overtime. Of course, we know Trevor Lawrence didn't play that game. Ian Book, the quarterback, had a late fourth quarter with a big pass. And Kareem Williams, he ran for 2 touchdowns in overtime. And there was a big defensive stop at the end of the game so they could win, and they won 47-40. I mean, Clemson's offense really didn't miss a – I wouldn't say didn't miss a beat. They might not have been as good with Trevor Lawrence, but the young quarterback did a great job. The only thing I say about Clemson is they only rushed for 35 yards, and their defense wasn't – they gave up 47 points. So Clemson, who was number one, definitely coming in. I don't think they're definitely not number one anymore. I think Ohio State is pretty much the consensus number one in the country right now. And Alabama might be. You could make an argument for Alabama, but Notre Dame definitely in the top 4. I don't think Clemson falls out of the top 4 with that loss because of Trevor.
Well, that was a rock'em sock'em game. Some games you know how it's going to wind up. You don't know who's going to win, but you know it's coming down to the end, and that's basically how it played out with Clemson and Notre Dame. But in the words of Apollo Creed, there ain't going to be no rematch. There's going to be a rematch. Yeah. I think they're going to see one another in the playoffs later on. One way or another, they're going to be meeting. I think they're too good not to get there. And if they do meet again, I certainly like Clemson.
In fact, Jeff, the AAC championship. If they're 1-2, they're going to have to play each other again even before the playoffs. So we'll see what happens at the end of the year. Indiana beats Michigan, Jack. Now, Harbaugh has not been able to beat Ohio State. He's having problems with Michigan State, and now Indiana beats him. What do you think is going to happen if Harbaugh is starting to lose the games he should win because of the program?
I mean, Harbaugh seems secure there. I don't understand him saying during the week he thinks they're moving in the right direction. By now, they were, expected to be at the very least strong contenders for the national championship. And I just don't understand what's going there. You would think he would be a very strong recruiter. He's certainly a very good coach from his time in the NFL. Sometimes coaching hires just don't work out.
Yeah.
They seem like they are going to work out for sure, that it can't miss. But in his case, I don't know. I mean, I think his future is going to be down the road at the NFL at some point again. But I don't think he's turning that program around because he would have done it by now.
I definitely agree with that. Florida, with a big win over Georgia. A lot of people thought Georgia would be competing for the national championship this year. And Maryland gets its first win at Penn State in years, Jack. The Penn State program, they lost their defensive coach, Spencer, to the Giants this year, who's our defensive line coach. I don't know if that has, a lot to do with it, but I guess if you're losing talented coaches, Penn State is normally up there at least battling for the division. And with Maryland beating them, I don't know where that program's going this year.
You see Bill O'Brien going back to Penn State?
I don't know. I don't think it would be a bad hire. Maybe he would be better suited to coach the college game than the pros. with his, the way his temperament is, and talking to younger men instead of the older vets there in the NFL. So maybe that happens. I don't know.
Not that they're no factor now, so we haven't mentioned them. With Deion Sanders being the head coach of Jackson State, that's going to be interesting to watch for sure. Deion, very flamboyant guy.
Yeah.
He had some problems with discipline. I kind of wonder what type of disciplinarian he's going to be. Is he going to encourage his players to all be very flamboyant, or is he going to have them have their nose to the grindstone? That's going to be kind of fun for me to watch.
That's a good question, Jack. I didn't even think about that, the different styles. And, of course, as we spoke about before, it's very hard for the so-called superstars in professional football to go ahead and become a great coach. It's just
one thing, the Heisman race, that's always plays out. And Justin Fields, I'm telling you, he is doing a phenomenal job there.
Looking really
Ohio State. And, and if the season ended today, he would be even money with Trevor Lawrence for the Heisman, as far as the way I'm looking at it. And it sets up another element for the draft, because Justin Fields reminds me so much of Kyler Murray. So much.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you can get a quarterback coming out of the draft about the caliber Kyler Murray, I mean, you're talking about now possibly 2 elite quarterbacks with that pick. So whoever's going number 2 could have a very nice alternative to number 1. So that's going to be something that's going to be really interesting to watch with the NFL records, how it plays out for the draft.
It's a great point, Jack. And I mean, so the Jets say, just for theory, the Jets go and they end up being the first to choose, and everybody's talking about Trevor Lawrence. What happens to the Jets take Fields?
They might want Justin Fields. I mean, we're not giving up on Sam Darnold.
Right.
But there's quite a difference, because whoever's going definitely number 1, maybe number 2, they might get a nice haul of draft picks. So if the Jets are keeping Sam Darnold, there's a major difference between going number 1, 2, or 3. What you can get back in return.
Definitely. Very, very good point. And there are some teams out there in desperate need of starting quarterbacks, Jack. So the Cowboys are starting Garrett Gilbert, the third quarterback. I think he got moved up from the practice squad, from what I gathered, and I could be wrong, but I did look over it real quick. So you got the Cowboys with the third quarterback. I just think the Cowboys season right now is on the brink of collapsing.
Mac, the Cowboys had a competition this week with Gilbert and Cooper Rush to see who was going to start the game.
Right.
And that's weird, to have a quarterback competition during a week of a season. You have those in training camp. And during the season, you have a pecking order. If one guy's not getting it done, you know who you're going to next. And just the idea of having a competition, one guy, it meant, was getting less reps than a normal starter would get. So he's going to be a little less ready than he would have been had he just been told you're starting this week.
Yeah, but you got to understand too, Jack, and this reminds me of the Steelers situation last year and the Jets situation to a great point, that your first string quarterback goes down, your second string quarterback goes down, and I mean your guy in the practice squad for the most part is there to get the defense ready and to mimic the quarterback you're going up against, and they get a lot of reps on the practice squad as far as the quarterback goes. Cooper Rush was with the Cowboys last year, so I mean, I can understand it. I mean, it's a very difficult situation they're in right now, and I wonder what the players are thinking right now, because I know there's 2 ways that a team will go right now, Jack. They're either going to step up and say, hey, we're going to have to win this game like some defenses have done in the past, or they're going to say we're all done. So it's going to be really interesting this game, how the Cowboys players, the whole team reacts to that quarterback competition.
Mac, I have a practice squad bulletin that just that's happening. In case anyone hasn't heard, Des Bryant was taken off the Baltimore Raven practice squad, and he's being activated for today's game. It's going to be his first regular season game in 3 years.
Wow.
And you wonder how a receiver the caliber of Des Bryant could not be in the game for 3 years. Was he that much of a prima donna? Was he that much of a headache? I mean, what's the deal? He was a star with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
And you mean he couldn't even get a job? So believe me, he's humbled. He's being given this other chance. And with the Giants locally, Golden Tate is on the practice squad. Was running the play. Yeah, so he was running the plays with the practice squad this week because Coach Judge, I mean, he's taking no nonsense.
Yeah,
there are no eye guys with Coach Judge and the Giants. That's why I like the direction they're moving in. And so,
definitely, as you mentioned, Golden Tate is not playing this Sunday because of complaining about not getting the ball. He was targeted 29 times. He did catch the ball 22, while Slayton is targeted 56 times. Listen, Jones' response to all of this is just that, he had nothing but praise for Golden Tate. He knows how to handle that media, Jack. He's not biting back. Of course, Tate's situation got worse when his wife went on social media.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. Yeah. You know what it was also? I'm going to defend Golden Tate a little bit here. He was open an awful lot of the time, during the game against Tampa Bay. And Daniel Jones just didn't see him to throw the ball to him. And that could be awfully frustrating. Just think of when you were a kid, you're playing two-hand touch or something, and you're wide open, and you're waving for the ball to be thrown to you, and it's not thrown to you on a number of occasions. Okay, right. You get a little frustrated, a little snippy, and so on. But when you have a veteran like Golden Tate on a young team like the Giants, a lot of times it's not a good mix unless you're ready to act as a true mentor. And there's one player who we haven't really recognized, and we'll talk about him another time, who's been a true mentor and the truest professional of any NFL player today. The biggest pro, as far as I'm concerned, is Frank Gore. Right. Frank Gore's the third leading NFL rusher of all time. He's on the Jets. Right. He's a quiet man. He's getting no recognition there. The team is losing. He's playing hard. He's not complaining. He's trying to mentor other players. Right. Frank Gore's, to me, you talk about competitors and people think about competitors. I want to win so bad. I'll do anything to win. A competitor is a guy who's the ultimate professional. And that's how Frank Gore's being this year. Yeah, and he's been that way his whole career.
I'll even throw that way to Fitzpatrick. When they put the young kid in Tua, he was actually clapping and raising his hands. Right. That to me is a real football player. And as great as you are, Jack, as great as a competitor you are in sports, you got to realize what's going on. I could see Tate's point, but that Daniel Jones is going to Slayton more, not just because it's his personal preference and not because they've been working together so long. There's something being said to him. Hey, look for Slayton because he's our big break guy. This is all talked about, between the coordinator and the quarterback. So it's not just Jones not seeing Tate. If he's got a shot at Slayton, they've got to be telling him, hey, we got to go downfield. We got to open up the thing a little bit. So I think he made a concentrated effort to do so. And I understand Tate is one of the greatest slot receivers you could argue in the game. So I understand him wanting the ball, but something, there is a game plan going in, and it's not just Jones.
Listen, there are comfort levels that go on all the time between quarterbacks and receivers. Even the greatest of all time, Jerry Rice preferred Steve Young to Joe Montana. It's not that he's saying that Steve Young was a better quarterback, but his chemistry was better with Steve Young. So there's always, it happens in sports all the time. Pitchers, some of them want their own individual catcher, who they could throw to. and they're
Sure.
given that option, especially if it's an elite pitcher. So
Sure.
there's something to be said about a certain chemistry, and especially you have a quarterback and a receiver. You want them on the same page. Speaking of that, what do you think of Antonio Brown? He's making his debut today as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer.
It should be very interesting. Again, they had a week of practice. Antonio Brown is just an incredible receiver on the field. He's maybe in his prime, maybe one of the best of all time. You could argue that easily. And with Tom Brady being a veteran and them working together a little bit, there are going to be some balls thrown his way. There's no doubt about it, Jack.
And they were shocked that he showed up in football shape, ready to play immediately. Normally, guys are in shape, but maybe not an exact football shape, and they might need an extra 3-4 weeks to tune up. But Antonio Brown was really kind of ready to go. It's not how it's going to start for Antonio Brown. It's how it's going to end. Eventually, he's going to want to be treated like an elite receiver, be thrown the ball to a lot. And if he's the old Antonio Brown, he should feel that way. I don't want a great receiver to have to settle and say, oh, golly, gee whiz, I just want to help the team. I don't care if I only catch the ball once or twice as long as we win. If you got a great receiver, an all-time great like Antonio Brown, you kind of want him to have that, extra bravado about him, okay? Because that results in making bigger plays.
Well, there was a discussion from what I read with the Tampa Bay receivers, because they have a great set of receivers, tight ends, and running back. They got a lot of weapons there. And there was a discussion before they did offer to bring them over with the receivers. Jones was okay with it, and the other receivers said they were okay with it. So they just didn't go out and get Antonio Brown because Tom Brady wanted Antonio Brown. There was a discussion about that before the move was even made, which I think was very smart by the coach.
Antonio Brown's a member of the Buccaneers only because of Tom Brady. Don't make any mistake about that. They're never going to make it out well. He's here because of Tom. And Tom Brady's fine with that. They don't want to make it out like Tom Brady's wielding too much power, like he's in charge of personnel. They're trying to accommodate Tom Brady. And also, Tom Brady, we don't know how many more years he could play in the league. He's playing at a high level. This might go on 5-6 more years. We don't know. But they're taking the attitude. They're putting everything into winning a championship at Tampa Bay in the next year or two. Everything, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm not optimistic about Tampa Bay 3 years down the road. I mean, they're playing the New Orleans Saints today. If the Saints window for a Super Bowl hasn't closed, I mean, this is the last year, and it's going to close after this year. Drew Brees, it might be his final year. And he has a pretty good receiver there, Michael Thomas, who's been a bit banged up today. So when we see the Buccaneers play the Saints, even though a lot of eyes are going to be on Antonio Brown, in reality, Antonio Brown's only going to be a part-time player for this game. They're going to kind of want to ease him in. At least Bruce Arians, the coach, indicated that's the strategy. But Michael Thomas, my feeling is he's going to have the biggest game of all the receivers on the field today.
Well, he hasn't played in the recent weeks, Jack. So, I mean, that has kind of stymied the New Orleans Saints offense because, of course, last year that was Drew Brees' favorite target. If he plays, he's still hurt. We'll see what happens. I mean, I would look to see if Thomas plays that he does have a big game.
Let me tell you, these injury reports, Mac, the only reason they have them is because of gambling. They don't want a team to hide an injury, the points being a certain way. So I think the NFL is giving into the Las Vegas odds or whatever, the whole, betting part of the NFL. Because every time you look at the injury report and you see questionable, any guy who's questionable always seems to play. Never seems to sit out. So you're supposed to report every little injury. The guy's got a little tweak here, there. I don't go for that. I mean, I think, if a guy's injured, you could hide it from another team. If you're not going to play him, let the other team have certain ways to adjust. Yeah, and I mean, it's just my opinion on it. I don't see the injury report thing as really being relevant and necessary, but nevertheless, they have it because they don't want the odds to be swayed too much for betting purposes.
Well, you got to realize, too, that a lot of states are making gambling legal, and the NFL is going along with it. And then there's also the fantasy football aspect, a lot of money in that, whether they should play players or not. So I understand why they're doing it, but I definitely see your point. So Joe Namath was in the news with his comments. I didn't think it was on ESPN or was it The Fan? I'm not exactly sure. It probably was The Fan. He added to the speculation that Trevor Lawrence might not go to the Jets if drafted. No, it was on ESPN. And all he said really was anything could happen.
Mac, come on. You're pretty desperate to get new news on this show. Everybody knows that. He might not go. I mean, that's been out there for a while, Mac.
We're speaking.
Give us some good material.
We're speaking. Thanks, Jack. I appreciate the vote of confidence. Joe Namath is one of the biggest names in Jets history. Would you agree with that?
The biggest name, Joe Willie Namath? Are you kidding me? The biggest name.
I would imagine if the greatest Jet in the history, what you're saying, of is making a comment that's news, Jack. So there you go.
But Joe Namath doesn't have an inside track, Mac. You and I did not have as much of an inside track to that info as Joe Willie Namath. If he was friends with Trevor Lawrence, friends with, the Clemson coach or whatever, that would be another matter that maybe he's hearing something. Joe's just talking as a fan. He's a great guy. Talking as a fan, he might not want to come to the Jets. The problem is all these elite quarterbacks, star players, they never want to come out because any team they're going to is going to be a lousy team.
Well,
they're going to the worst team in the NFL in most cases.
That's not entirely true because last year Burrows wanted to go to the Cincinnati Bengals.
No, he didn't. He talked a little against it in the beginning. It was his hometown. There was gentle speculation he might not want to, go. But then it didn't last long. But there was gentle speculation.
Well, you might say gentle. This is a little more than gentle, Jack. So
I'll say anything. We didn't speak.
Well, no, he's not going to come out and personally say that, Jack. I don't know any draft pick, first draft pick that actually came out and said, I'm not going there. All right. It normally comes to the draft day. Elway put up a fuss. Eli's father got involved, so Eli didn't have to say that. I have not really heard any first-round draft choice say, I'm not going to that team.
Mac, let me ask you if you had to set odds, okay? Is it 50-50 less? If the draft were held today, the Jets season ended. Let's say the season ended, okay? And you had Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. You have those are the two guys right now, quarterbacks in college who would go 1-2.
Right.
What would you do if you were the Jets? Would you hold on to Sam Darnold? Would you take Trevor Lawrence or would you take Justin Fields?
I would hold on to Trevor Lawrence, and I probably would draft.
You'd hold on to Sam Darnold, you mean?
Sam Darnold, but I would probably draft one of those two quarterbacks also. And the reason why
would you draft? You keep two quarterbacks, or you trade the pick for other draft picks?
No, I got a boatload of draft picks coming from the Adams trade. I would definitely take one of those quarterbacks with Darnold, have a competition before the season, and whoever lost that, then I would trade him.
But that's going to be hard to trade him at that point. The draft's going to be over. I don't think you get as much because the other teams would have made their moves.
That's true, Jack, but I'm talking about for future draft picks, maybe a couple players. That's what I would do. But why
would you have Darnold competing? You know what he can do. Either he should be the Jet quarterback going forward or he shouldn't.
I know what Darnold could do. He's never had a complete team around him to do it. But I also know that we don't know what Field and Lawrence will do in the NFL either against NFL competition. So that's what I would do. And whoever lost that competition would be second string or would be traded for a future draft choice. And if Darnold has another bad year, you got your number one quarterback to go in behind him. If you want to trade Darnold, you can trade Darnold. If you want to trade one of the other first round draft picks, you can also trade him. So that's what I would do.
Or you just keep them both, conceivably.
Right. And see what happens with Darnold this following year. And if he has another bad year.
But you can't, Mac, I couldn't see for the life of me doing that because your number one overall draft choice, you put him in a competition, and let's say he loses it to Sam Darnold.
Right.
Then he's going to be on the bench that year.
Well, just like they used to, just like Aaron Rodgers was, just like
Aaron
a lot of
Rodgers
quarterbacks.
was the number one Aaron Rodgers.
I understand that. I understand that. Well, I'm saying that they did draft a quality quarterback and kept him on the bench. And somebody named Patrick Mahomes was also kept on the bench.
But that was the plan. They knew 1 year Patrick Mahomes.
I understand. So maybe the Jets, maybe the Jets would have that plan also, Jack. Who knows?
Okay.
You ask me my opinion. I give you my opinion. Okay, so back.
Listen, you're entitled to. Yeah, maybe your plan will work better than mine.
I don't know. That's why neither one of us right now are the GMs of a football team.
Let me tell you something. You say, Mac, I sometimes put you down, okay?
No.
Let me compliment you here. I think you do a better job as Jet GM, than what they've had in recent years. I think, if I were the owner, you definitely get an interview for the GM's job, Mac.
Thank you very much. Right now, Jack. Right now, we got
you as assistant GM.
Right now, Jack, we got Anthony Cervino backstage, ready to come on, our fantasy football expert. Anthony is on Fantasy Football Faceoff, has a great site. He also breaks down 3 of the biggest games with us. He does an incredible job with that. So let's get Anthony in here, Jack. How you doing today, Anthony?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you?
We were arguing, Anthony. You're an extra welcome addition at this moment.
I heard some of it.
Yeah,
I caught the last few minutes of it.
Yes. So
I'm not going to say what it was about.
Well, you don't have to. You don't have to, Jack. So anyway, Anthony, glad to have you on again. Anthony is on with us every Sunday at 8:30, giving us his expertise in fantasy and also his thoughts on the big games that are coming up today. And we pick out 3 games and we kind of go through them and ask his opinion. So, Anthony, the best plays this week, there was a few injuries. Kittle, I don't know about what Garoppolo is going to be, whether he's going to play or get an operation or if he's going to wait it out or whatever. But there's been a lot of leg injuries this year to a lot of players, whether it be hamstrings or whether it be pulled muscles or whether it be busted up knees and ankles. So a lot of leg injuries. So for this week, Anthony, who's your biggest play? And if you could by position, let the viewers know.
Let's start with the quarterback position. And I kind of like Kyler Murray a lot this week. And Kyler Murray, he's been one of the best fantasy quarterbacks this season. I believe he's had at least 1 rushing touchdown in all but 1 game, if not all of the games this year. And I really love his matchup against Miami. Miami's coming in number 1 in fewest points per game allowed, but you can score on them. They're not invincible, and they do give up a lot of yards.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Does Miami have the intangible of being an improving team? When you talk about upside in a team, do they have as much upside as anyone else?
I think if Tua can figure it out, or if he is or isn't, they could win that division.
Yeah,
this year.
Yeah,
I definitely
maybe not next year. I think Brian Flores, we've only seen about a year and a half of Brian Flores as a head coach, and he already looks like the best Bill Belichick disciple.
Yeah,
already.
Definitely agree with that. Anthony. Who do you have for a running back? A couple running backs here.
At running back this week, I like James Robinson a lot out of Jacksonville. He's going up against Houston, and Houston, their run defense isn't very good at all. And James Robinson, he's looked good, undrafted free agent. Jacksonville with a quarterback change, they're going to be starting, I believe, Jake Luton, a sixth-round rookie. Gardner Minshew had a hand operation. He's out indefinitely. So I think they're going to have to lean on James Robinson a lot to kind of take the pressure off this young quarterback who we know nothing about.
Definitely agree with that, too. I would imagine the other defense is thinking the same way that they're playing. So, it's definitely going to have to be a good running game to help at least Jacksonville stay in the game for to be competitive in that game.
Over at wide receiver, I like Terry McLaurin going up against the New York Giants. And the best thing I've seen out of the New York Giants defense, because they have players at all three levels. They have Leonard Williams, who, they have to give him an extension. I don't think they did yet. I think that's a must. They have Blake Martinez, Kyle Fackrell, another good linebacker, and that defensive back, James Bradbury's playing as a top 10 corner this year. But Terry McLaurin, earlier in the year, I think it was week 6 where they played against each other, he went for 6 or 7 receptions and 74 yards. Last season, McLaurin against the Giants had a very similar stat line. I think this could be another game where Terry McLaurin has a respectable, I don't think he's going to blow up, but I think he's going to have a respectable fantasy game. And he's a player that I believe if you put him with a Patrick Mahomes or a Tom Brady, Terry McLaurin would be a top 5 receiver in the league. Yes,
I definitely agree with that too. On defense, who would be your defense that you would play today if you had a choice?
If I could pick any defense, it has to be Pittsburgh going up against Dallas. And, with or without Ezekiel Elliott, that offense is shot. They've only scored 1 touchdown in 13 quarters without Dak Prescott.
What's happened to Ezekiel Elliott? Of all the players in the NFL, his performance, I think, has been the most disappointing.
I think it comes down to how he handles himself in the offseason. He doesn't seem like the player who's a workout warrior. I know when he wants to be, he could. Like when he had the suspension and went to Cabo and then came back, he looked like it was going to go into a bodybuilding competition with how shredded his body was, and it showed on the field. And I think maybe this year and even last year with the holdout, he just doesn't look like he's in the same shape. He doesn't have the same speed or burst. 1,000+ carries in his career so far. If I'm Dallas, I'm shutting Zeke down for the rest of the year. I know that there are 1 or 2 games out of first place, but doesn't matter. Like, you're going to try to make a playoff run with what they have at quarterback. I mean,
what would be the
shut Zeke down?
What would be the purpose of shutting him down?
Preserve his body for next year when they have a quarterback and an offensive line and hopefully a better defense.
Yeah, that's a good.
Why add any more wear and tear?
That's something. That's a great point. And there's 2 trains of thought on that, Anthony. He got his big contract. A lot of players get that big contract, and they're not working as hard as maybe they should. And of course, just the offensive line, Anthony. I mean, you can't run through defensive linemen. I don't care how great a running back you are.
I would say Tony Pollard, the backup, he has a lot of hype, but he doesn't get a lot of touches. And when he does, he looks pretty good. If I'm Dallas too, let's see what Tony Pollard can do, because that gives you an option. Maybe you can get out of Ezekiel Elliott's contract early, or maybe it gives you, hey, like, we need offensive line help. We need help at linebacker. Because, Sean Lee's hurt all the time and he's getting old, and then Leighton Vander Esch has the neck. Maybe you trade Tony Pollard for a high draft pick, because he has a big year down the stretch.
Yeah,
They need to be looking at 2021, not at a playoff run right now.
I agree with that 100%. Okay, Anthony, we mentioned the Dolphins and Cardinals a minute ago. Let's look further into that. I mean, the Cardinals, I think, are surprising a lot of teams with how good fast they got. And same thing with the Dolphins. A lot of people thought that the Dolphins would be maybe a 500 team, and right now they are. But listen, that team to me right now is playing the best in the East, and the Cardinals just beat Seattle, as you have actually predicted that last week, that they had a real good chance at doing that. So, I mean, I see this as a real good game. The Dolphins defense looked outstanding last week. The Cardinals' probably weakness is their defense, if you want to say that is a weakness. So I see a great game coming up. What do you think about Tua this week? Do they open it up a little bit more? And what do you think about the Cardinals against that good Dolphin defense?
Listen, we've already saw the reports. I think it was last week that the big reason why that they went to Tua is because they want to see if he's the guy or not. Because if they don't think Tua is the guy, they're going to move on from him. They're going to trade him and then draft a quarterback in this upcoming class because they have a lot of draft picks like the Jaguars stockpiled.
Right.
But this is one of my favorite games because I've been on the Arizona bandwagon in the offseason. I thought if they hit on Isaiah Thomas, their top 10 pick, the hybrid defensive back linebacker, he would really change that defense. And right now, the Cardinals are the 9th best defense in fewest points allowed. They don't give up a lot, and you would think because they've normally in years past they haven't been as good. We're seeing a resurgence from Patrick Peterson. He's looking like he's now a top-end cornerback again. They have a lot of great pieces on that side. And then the Miami Dolphins defense, I can't say enough good things about it. If you're betting this game, I love the under. I think that's the way to go there. But as far as Tua, this is big because he didn't have to do a lot to win last week. I think it's going to be a different case now. They're going to send pressure. And if Tua has another bad game, there's going to be a lot more questions than answers.
Anthony, I disagree with that. In nearly any case, a coach is never going to say he's auditioning a quarterback for other teams to look at. They're never going to say that. But when Brian Flores says Tua's not being auditioned, he's our quarterback of the future, I think he really means it. The only question with Tua is whether he's going to stay healthy or not. He's the goods. I just can't make any sense of this talk that he's being auditioned in any way, shape, or form. The man's only had one full game in the NFL. He needs a little time to develop. These last 7 games of the regular season, even if they don't make the playoffs, this is his time to develop. I honestly believe going forward, they have absolutely no plans of taking a quarterback in the draft next year, or they really shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, I get it from that standpoint. I'm just going off of the rumor that I saw during the week. But also, Tua came in, of all these quarterbacks, he came in with injury concerns. He's the one who came in with questions, and I think they took the gamble on him. But look at what the Cardinals did in Josh Rosen. They knew Josh Rosen wasn't the guy, and they drafted Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I
next year, and now Josh Rosen's out of the league.
Yeah, well, if you could get a player the caliber of Kyler Murray, it's hard not to pick him. Miami's not going to be in that situation unless they fall in love with Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields and they want to give a bunch of their draft picks. I mean, there's always a possibility, but it's hard to see them moving on from Tua after such a short amount of time.
The leverage in the situation, I believe, has to do with the draft picks involved in one of the trades they made for Laramie Tunsil in Houston. Yeah. Because that Houston pick could be the 3rd overall pick.
Yeah, and they could move up. They could move up and offer some other picks to get the quarterback if they so choose to. I think a lot had to do with Kyler Murray was not just they realized that Rosen may not be the goods. The coach that came in there wanted to run a certain system,
right?
Where Rosen, he couldn't do that. So let's get to the next game, Anthony. The Bears and Titans. It kind of interests me because I'm not sure whether the Bears made the right choice in picking up Foles and then starting Foles, because really he's not an upgrade at starting quarterback to me. He's one of those, Jack calls them relief quarterbacks, that can come into a game. He's good enough to carry a team for a few games and win. I mean, he had a tremendous season.
He's the Mariano Rivera of backup quarterbacks. That's what he is.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the Bears defense is still good. I don't know what happened to the Titans. It seemed like they've lost their drive, and it surprises me because I still think that they have the capability of being one of the top teams in the AFC. So what do you see about this game, Anthony? How are you looking at it?
The Bears are coming in. They're not playing great right now after starting the season really strong. And then even the Titans, they look like they have some kinks in the armor too. But I'm more surprised at Tennessee because Tennessee looks like the more complete team. They look like a team ready to make a Super Bowl run because for a very, very long stretch, Ryan Tannehill was being compared. Well, he's, if he wasn't Ryan Tannehill, he'd have Patrick Mahomes numbers because that's the rate he was on. But all of a sudden, the past week or two, it just doesn't look the same in Tennessee. And I think this is a must-win game. And it's hard to say must-win at this juncture. But for Tennessee, I think they have to win this game to get back on track. And then for Chicago, that's another must win because Green Bay is just getting better and better and better. And Green Bay is separating themselves now.
No, I agree with you completely as far as Tennessee goes, except I have a little bit of a theory. They didn't play poorly in the first of their 2 losses when they played the Steelers. The missed field goal at the end would have sent the game into overtime. Maybe they would have won that. They played an elite team in the Steelers, the only unbeaten team in the league. And then the following week, they're playing the Cincinnati Bengals. My theory is maybe they had a big letdown after being in such a big game the week before. And I think this game against the Bears is going to reveal a lot. 2 losses in a row. I think if Tennessee wins decisively, they've reasserted themselves.
Yeah, I agree. And they should win this game.
Yeah.
What do you think about the starting quarterback over there, Anthony? Do you think it's time to put Mitch back in and see what he can do? I mean, they benched him and they were winning. So, I mean, I know that the coach and him have some kind of problems as far as not using him correctly. The coach wants to use one system. Trubisky is basically, I would say unorganized and unorthodox quarterback like some in the league where he can run, he can pass, but yet he has accuracy problems. Do you think that they go back to Mitch?
I think if Mitchell Trubisky was healthy, yes, but Trubisky's out again. He suffered the last time. I guess they put him in for a play or like a wildcat type of situation, and he got hurt.
Okay.
Trubisky,
Great.
and now so he's going to miss his 2nd straight game. Or no, he got knocked out last week, and he's out this week. But yeah, I think they're going to go back to Trubisky because Trubisky was what 2-0 or 3-0 when they went to Foles.
Yeah. I mean, I understand they're paying Foles a lot of money picking up that contract, and that's why they brought him there. But hey, sometimes you go with what's winning, and it may send a bad message to Foles or maybe to the Bears. Maybe they're confused, but you want to go with a guy that you I think gives you a better chance to win. So we go to the Saints and Bucks. Again, a big deal made out of Brady and Breeze matching up. Of course, they're not really matching up. It's the Tom Brady versus the Saints defense, and the Saints, Drew Bledsoe against the Bucks defense. The Giants showed that you can run on the Bucks last week. They had some really good running plays up the middle, little double team blocking, not trying to get outside on that Tampa Bay fast defense. The Giants played them tough. The Saints don't look the same. Antonio Brown should get some playing time with the Bucks. What do you think is going to happen in that game, Anthony?
I've been all in on Tampa since Tom signed there. I picked them to be my Super Bowl team. But really within the minutes of when they signed, and I got to react to it. That's the type of impact that I thought Tom was going to make because I remember on my show last year down the stretch because when I analyze games, I analyze it by quarters because the first 4 games is very different than the third set of 4 games going down the stretch. And I had said Miami and Tampa Bay's defense, they're going to be top 10 units next year because Tampa Bay, their front 7, if you remember last year, they were a top 2 or 3 front 7, and the secondary was young and they were getting lit up, but they were getting lit up because Jameis Winston had 30 plus turnovers. And you have to assume that a lot of them, that was making the defense look bad and putting them in bad situations. And with Tom Brady, he was not going to turn the ball over more than 15 times, and 15 is a lot. So this defense, they were poised to make the jump that they did. Drew Brees' arm hasn't been the same, but on that end, he is going to be getting back, I believe, Emmanuel Sanders and Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas hasn't played since week 1. So New Orleans, their offense is going to be at full strength. And, of course, Tampa Bay, you add Antonio Brown to the mix. Chris Godwin's expected to play. He's missed 4 games himself with various injuries, the latest being a finger. So this is going to be an offensive explosion. I believe 6 out of the past 7 meetings or 5 out of the past 6 between these two teams have gone over. So this is a game where I love the over if you're betting the game. But I like Tampa Bay to win this one outright. I think this is going to be a statement game for Tampa Bay.
Okay. And one other question. I know your heart is in Dallas. what do you think about actually having a quarterback competition to see who starts the game? I mean, it kind of reminds me of Pittsburgh a little bit last year, where they had 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks. The Jets even to a point. I don't know what to say. I mean, to me, there should be the person that's there that's starting this game. I guess he was on a practice squad. They brought him up, Gilbert. Of course, he should start. And if you bring Cooper Rush back, then he waits in the wings. I don't think a competition is helpful to the team.
No, I just think they want to see what's the least of all evils between Cooper Rush, who spent a lot of time in this system, and then he was on the street, and then Garrett Gilbert was on the practice squad. To me, it's 6 and 1/2 dozen the other who's back there. It's just like at the trade deadline, people thought that they should be making a move for Ryan Fitzpatrick or another quarterback, and I'm like, why? Because the issue is the offensive line.
Agree 100%. Agree.
When you're on your third and fourth left tackle and right tackle, doesn't matter who's at quarterback. Unless I don't. It just doesn't make sense. And Pittsburgh released Wisniewski yesterday. Dallas should be picking him up. Dallas should have picked up Quentin Spain, who Buffalo released a few weeks ago, and he signed in Cincinnati. Like, these are the players that are going to help your team.
Yeah,
right.
A quarterback. You have guys. Anything you get elsewhere is a guy.
Right. Agreed.
You have that.
Well, my issue with a quarterback competition during the season, it takes away reps from whoever's ultimately going to be starting, and it's going to affect him for the upcoming game. They just should have made a decision, one guy or the other, and had a pecking order. I mean, the competition is fine for the preseason, but not once the season begins.
Yeah, I agree with that too, Jack. So, Anthony, we're going to let you go. We appreciate you again stopping in.
Thanks for having me.
We enjoy having you. Everybody go to Fantasy Football Faceoff. Check out his site. It's awesome. Anthony does a great job with not only with fantasy, but breaking down games and information on teams. And again, Anthony, have a great day, and thanks for coming by.
You too. Have a nice day, guys.
Take care.
So there you go. We had Anthony Cervino with a lot of his knowledge and everything. Next coming up, we'll be having Robert Butler, who is the Sports Skope broadcaster. He'll be up right after some commercials, and we'll get to him. And we got some questions for Robert today, and we're going to see what his responses are. So 1 second, folks.
Robert,
we're going to have
move on, not just from players on the Jets. I think he wants to move on from the team. Just get him out of New York.
Just get everybody. Just get
Colorado.
Right, exactly. Just get him out.
Get a future franchise considerations in return.
Yes, I think he's going to trade owners into teams, and we'll see what happens. So right after these commercial, folks, we'll be back with Robert Butler from Sports Skope.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211-INFO line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again?
Alex is just
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed. Yeah, well, Kyle's not here. How come? Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying the Matt's gonna be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he gonna know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
Yes, how we doing today? And welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, bringing you all of our fantasy football updates just a minute ago with Anthony Cervino. And up next, we're going to have our great opinionated guest from Sports Skope, Robert Butler. And Jack, Anthony always gives us not only the probably the best expert fantasy football information, but he also does a great job breaking down the games. Yeah. And so we love to have him on every week, and we love to have our next guest come on every week too. He's great at what he does. He gives us a little insight onto certain topics in football that I like to cover with him, and he gives us straight answers, and that's the way it is. So how you doing today, Robert?
Hey, good morning, guys. I'm really looking forward to today's games. Yeah, Jack, I heard you backstage. You know, that would be a good idea to move the Jets away, help Tennessee when they moved away from Houston.
What could Tennessee give us? We'll give them a whole Jet team. What could we get in return in draft picks?
You know, Sheryl Crow once had a song called Change Can Do You Good. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, my goodness, Jack. He's all over your team right now.
Listen, hey. Now watch them beat New England tomorrow night.
Yeah, watch that happen. That would be crazy. Yeah. So, we'll get to the NFC East first, Robert. I mean, it looks like the Eagles may win the division. Do you feel that any team that wins that division, I don't care who it is, has any kind of chance at getting into the playoffs and winning a game?
Yes. Winning a game, yes. You look at Green Bay. For instance, Philadelphia went to Green Bay last year on a Thursday night, and you guys watch the games like I do. That heavily favors the home team. Philadelphia went up there on a Thursday night with injuries and beat Green Bay in Green Bay. Green Bay has an issue with physical running teams. We saw what they gave up last week. They have to outscore people. And Philly could beat them, Possibly a Washington team could beat Green Bay because of their defensive personnel and running game. So, yes, the NFC East could win a game, even if they do just win their division at 6-10 or 7-9.
So is Miami, we're going to go to AFC East real quick. Yeah. Is Miami the favorite out there now? I mean, Buffalo has not been playing as well as it has. Josh Allen is becoming a little more inaccurate like he did in the past. The Patriots, of course, are having a lot of problems over there with whether they keep Cam as starting quarterback, start the kid. It seems like they really don't have a running game, a passing game. Their defense, of course, when you're on the field all the time, you're going to wear down. So do you think that Miami now is probably the clear-cut favorite to win that division?
No, absolutely not. Buffalo's already tagged them with a loss. Buffalo, I was thought about when you sent me those questions the other day, and they kind of got caught in a funk. They went on a road trip. They beat Vegas. They beat the Raiders. The COVID thing came here. Their body clocks were way off. They had to play Tennessee on a Tuesday. And then they were originally supposed to play Kansas City at a home Thursday game, which, again, favors the home team. I had Buffalo beating the Chiefs at home. Well, that got pushed back to like a Monday, the following Monday game. And, of course, Kansas City had the extra time to prepare. They beat them. They've had injuries at receiver. Buffalo has. They've had defensive injuries. And I think they're going to win today. I think they're going to beat Seattle today at home. And they're going to rebound. John Brown's back healthy again. Josh Allen's starting to use Cole Beasley now. They've got Gabriel Davis. They've got this rookie, what is his name? Zach Moss, running back. They're starting to get a complete team here. They got over. I was talking about this on my show the other day, is when you're trying to beat someone who's had your number, a New England, it's very hard because I felt like they should have won that home game last year that the Patriots came back at the end. Remember they had that big lead towards the end of the season? It's a mental block because it's New England. It's the big bad wolf. Now they beat the big bad wolf, and they're still at home. And I think the schedule's favorable. They've tagged everybody with the loss in the division. And, yes, I do see the Bills winning the division. Miami still got some pieces to add. I think Miami loses today at Arizona. Miami only had 90 yards out of Tua. We're going to find out how good Tua is today. He's going to be his first shootout. So I'm really looking forward to that. But, no, Buffalo's still the team. Miami's trending in the right directions with their slew of draft picks. Also, Miami, there was a report that Adam Schefter saying that this is a tryout for Tua. Remember I talked about the other day, they have 2 first round. They have Houston's first round and their second round pick with all these good quarterbacks coming in. Want to see if Tua, is that more of an Alabama thing or is it more of a Tua? I'm not sure. I want to get a good sample size of Tua too.
I'm going to tell you, I don't understand this Tua talk with auditioning. I think it's ridiculous here. He's playing his second game, his second NFL game that he's starting. And they won last week. He was a game manager last week. They took little chances with him. They didn't have to. Allow him to develop. He's going to be an outstanding quarterback in the league. The only concerns with Tua is whether he's going to stay healthy or not. And they have 7 more games the rest of the year, the Dolphins. Well, they played 7. They're 4-3, excuse me. They're not, if I'm not mistaken. And I just don't understand all this talk about auditioning and so on, that the Dolphins are going to put their picks together that they got from Houston and look to maybe get Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields. I just don't understand the talk. They have their quarterback of the future right now. So let's say he does have a bad game or 2. He's a rookie. Allow him to have some growing pains over these last games. And if it comes down to the end of the season and he's doing so-so and they need to put Ryan Fitzpatrick in for 1 game to make the playoffs, if it comes down to that, then so be it. Put Fitzpatrick back in. but don't lose focus off what you have in Tua. I just don't understand this talk. I think it's ludicrous.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you primarily. I watched the guy. I know he did play at Alabama. I know they have great players around them. We're seeing Jerry Jeudy start to look good now at receiver. Was this guy's name Mark Jones? He started the Heisman favorite, Mark Jones or Matt Jones. But that being said, Tua he threw lasers out there. I watched a lot of his games. If he can just play within himself, not try to be he's not as fast as a Kyler Murray. Yes, he's undersized. The comparison everybody's talking about is Drew Brees, but hey, he was that accurate at times. You definitely got to get him a good sample size before we want to make a broad. I guess they're just letting that. Somebody let it out. Somebody in Miami let that out.
I think that was to grab some headlines, Robert, really, because I agree with Jack totally here. I think that, every rookie quarterback, when you're thrown in there, is going to have growing pains. Even Patrick Mahomes didn't start his rookie year. He had maybe one game or something he played in. And to throw in a towel on Tua, if he had struggles this year is kind of nuts. I mean, even Philadelphia, they kept Wentz when Foles went in there and he won the Super Bowl for him. I mean, he didn't win it, but he led him to the Super Bowl and helped them win it. And I think it's ridiculous to even make that statement. I think that's a headline grab, and I really believe that would be totally foolish. I would love to have him on the Giants as at least a backup and see what he can do there. The Jets would be licking their chops too to have a shot at getting somebody like Tua, even with the injury problem. Which leads me to my next thing. I didn't send you this question because sometimes we start talking and thoughts go through my head. Do you think they're rushing the quarterbacks too quickly now? I mean, listen, I know there's nothing like getting on the field, getting the game experience. But, for the most part that I can remember, let's leave Peyton Manning out because his first year as a rookie quarterback was disastrous, really. He had more interceptions, I think, than touchdowns at that time. Tom Brady was just used. He got forced in that position. He was just a field manager, and the Patriots team was just that good that they could and had such a great kicker that they could go to the Super Bowl and win it. Do you believe that they're rushing quarterbacks too quickly and throwing them out there? And everything in sports is about confidence, Robert. I'm better than anybody else. I'm better than the other guy. Once you get rattled, like what happened, for instance, with Dwayne Haskins, big mistake putting him in, I think, last year. He played one good year at Ohio State. Why not let the kid sit in the bench, learn a couple years, and if he's got that arm talent and he can start reading defenses, then he could be a good quarterback. So again, question to you, Robert, is are they rushing these quarterbacks too quickly?
Yes and no. There has been instance where Rodgers stayed 3 years on the bench. Patrick Mahomes, ideal situation. That being said, remember Russell Wilson was he like a third-round pick his rookie year? If the players can see that this rookie is killing it in camp, and everybody knows it, but the general public, I think if you have one of those situations where the guy is not signaling anything to the defense, he is quick on his feet, it has to be a case-by-case basis. But, yes, I do think, and you're right, Dwayne Haskins, his own coach at college said he hasn't got that many college starts under his belt. Yeah. So he should have stayed. I would definitely give him another shot, but we got to find out what his work ethic is. Yeah, sometimes these quarterbacks do have confidence issues. Just our college quarterback here in Tennessee, once he started throwing picks a few weeks ago, he has completely fell apart. That's in college, though. It's Jared Garantano. I remember Matt Schaub, once he got into the habit of a funk of throwing interceptions, he just seemed to just throw more and more. So, yeah, I do think that you got to take it on a case-by-case basis. If it's my preference, I would want a guy sit for a year under a veteran that knows the situation, kind of like a Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes situation. Let him get a feel for the game, see what he's good at, see what he's not at. But if it is an issue where he has 3 straight years of starting at the college level, he's been a number one prospect for a while, like an Andrew Luck. Remember, he started his first year. They went straight to the playoffs that year. They had the number one pick, went straight to the playoffs. So you got to take it on a case-by-case basis. But I would rather be patient. But if it's overwhelming in camp, and I think, what was it, Herm Edwards that said, if it's a tie, you go with the young guy.
Well, I got to say something. In the case of Dwayne Haskins, the circumstances were awful for him. He got caught in a log jam. By a log jam, I mean Ron Rivera came from Carolina to become head coach of the Skins, and he brought his own guy, Kyle Allen, there. So once you bring your own guy there, that spells trouble because you're bringing the guy who you want to play for you. And they had Alex Smith, okay, coming off the terrible injury. But once Alex Smith could come back and he could play, he has the contract. He's the most capable guy as far as picking up a system quickly, so on. So where does that leave Dwayne Haskins? It's very difficult to play Dwayne Haskins ahead of both of them unless Dwayne Haskins is going to be lights out from the beginning. So once Dwayne Haskins is starting to struggle a little bit, you have two other alternatives to go to very quickly. And that's what kind of hurt his situation. It's not like the Giants with Daniel Jones has no one looking over his shoulder. Dwayne Haskins had two guys looking over his shoulder.
Well, I think you have to, he's got to humble himself and say, if I get cut, if I get called into camp, I've got to work on my fundamentals, and I've got to outwork everybody. There's a lot of bad quarterbacks in the NFL who are workout warriors. They're great practice guys. So he's going to have to win some people over. Once he got that reputation of not really working hard that first year, it started, you got to get that label off of you. No, that's a mislabel of me. So my thing is to everybody, again, these guys see them more than we do. They see them every Monday through Friday. We just see the final product. How much study is he really doing? Is he really the first guy in, the last guy leaves, or is he just an 8 to 5 guy? I'm out of Nashville. Vince Young, he was late and he left early. That was the deal. And from what I heard inside, and I'm like, no, man, Vince Young. We were all for him. The guy won Rookie of the Year. We were talking about that last week.
Yeah,
won Rookie of the Year. The league make adjustments. They caught up with him, and of course, we saw what happened there. So I don't think it's an issue where. I think it's an issue where guys just got to prove himself. When you bring in 2 or 3 and somebody like Sean Payton, a lot of these guys, even Andy Reid, they're bringing these young guys here, don't pay them nothing. If you get in there and outwork people, you'll get your opportunity. You just got to humble yourself and just do it, and not make excuses and blame other people. There's always going to be critics. There's critics everywhere.
And again, we didn't talk about this before the show, but again, it leads me to a question about the Patriots and Cam Newton. Now, when they signed Cam Newton to that very small contract, and I knew he was going there to start because why pick him up? A lot of the broadcasters in the industry said, "Oh, this makes the Patriots, the AFC, the division. They're going to win the division because they got Cam Newton." And I was always thinking, if Cam Newton was still the player he was years ago, Carolina first wouldn't have let him go. I mean, they would have kept him there. There's no doubt about that. And secondly, another team would have picked him up right away. So they knew down deep that, and from the information they had and from watching him over the last couple of years, not only is his arm lost strength, he's inaccurate, and we talked about the run-first quarterbacks, still a dynamite runner. They still design plays around him. But once you shut down that option is when somebody – like Cam Newton now, after those injuries, after not playing well, his accuracy problems. This now, I think some broadcasters have personal feelings. Maybe they played with him, maybe because of certain other reasons. They make these outrageous statements, and now it turns around, and now we're seeing, well, this is why Cam Newton can get picked up right away for the money he wanted.
Yeah, a lot of the former players that are on like ESPN and stuff, they're close friends with the guy. It's he's a great guy. He's this, he's that. Well, the knock on Cam Newton is, and I saw that the All or Nothing Amazon Prime. It went through the whole season with the Panthers, and he's a nice guy, and he's very physically fit. He's never out of shape or fat or anything, but it was showing him getting his hair cut. his outfits and brand and dancing, and you never seen him going over film study with the and that's a knock on. That's been the knock on him with the quarterback coach or anything like that. It's just he's not all. I know that's cliche-ish, but some of these guys, he's just got that reputation not being all in, and that's what shut off a lot of the league. I mean, think about this for a second. The guy was a former MVP of the league, and he didn't get picked up until August because the reputation around the league is not good. This guy's set in his ways. He's not going to change. He's made over $100 million. Now, he said the right things. Going the Bill Belichick reminds me of my dad. He'd have a pretty good game against Buffalo the other day, considering you had injuries to Edelman and everything. So that's my thing. I think Cam is a lot of that. Like you said, the broadcasters, they're too close to the situation to give you an honest assessment. That's why you got to watch guys like us.
Well, the reason with Carolina, listen, I agree. I remember Michael Irvin and Deion Sanders. They were all over Tim Tebow, how wonderful he was when he went on that run with Denver. They were making it out like he was a quality starting NFL quarterback. But the thing with Cam Newton in Carolina, why they didn't hold on to him in part, the name escapes me, but one of the coaches at Minnesota, when Teddy Bridgewater was there with Teddy Bridgewater. Now he's a coach, under Matt Rule at Carolina, and he highly recommended Teddy Bridgewater. He loved Teddy Bridgewater, so they brought him to Carolina. So that made Cam Newton, somewhat expendable. But what's more revealing is Ron Rivera making no move to pick him up. But then again, Ron Rivera was forced to stick with Dwayne Haskins. So he had only so much space on his roster with Alex Smith. So between Kyle Allen and Cam Newton, Ron Rivera decided to bring Kyle Allen to Washington, which is kind of a little revealing. But you guys are right. Rob, you're right there. Former league MVP. You mean he can't get a third string quarterbacking position? But part of the problem is these coaches baby these young quarterbacks. They're so concerned about their confidence, thinking if they bring in a guy like Cam Newton, fans are going to start calling for Cam Newton to come in and play, and what it might do to the young quarterback's confidence. To me, that's a bunch of rubbish, but nevertheless, that's the way it is.
Yeah, I remember Joe Gibbs used to, and this is a guy won with 3 different quarterbacks, and they are sensitive. They have the biggest ego, and most, and some of them are more outlandish about it. But Tom Brady's got a huge ego. Aaron Rodgers, huge ego.
Yeah,
and you got to make them feel. But that being said, I'm with you. You got to go compete at some point. You have to say, okay, and you have to go compete with everybody else. So it's going back to Dwayne Haskins. We know you were drafted in the first round. We know that. But now you're a free agent. This is for Cam, and we're not going to pay. We're going to pay you what we're going to pay any other free agent quarterback that's coming in to compete, not entitled to a starting job.
Yeah. And off that subject real quick, I'm going to talk about the business aspect. The ratings in all sports, even with the COVID, even with people, home more than not, the ratings all dropped. The NBA, even baseball. Do you feel that the NFL's ratings will drop just like the other sports did?
No, because I'm starting to see the crowds. I think that is a big deal. I mean, the crowds, first few weeks you're watching these crowd noises. I was just watching a replay of the Chiefs and who they played last week, the Jets.
Right.
And there was a lot of people in the stands, this post-COVID. So that is a big part of it. And another thing, not to go too deep into this, you can't get involved in these politics. I go there to get away. I know a lot of your activists who act like sports reporters and sports commentator. No, that shouldn't be it. There's a time and place for everything. I want to escape all that stuff. I mean, I got so tired of hearing about I want to watch sports. I don't want to be lectured by people, players on politics. We want to escape all that. And the NBA was way too involved in that. You know, Adam Silver said we're getting away from writing all that stuff on there. We believe in the calls. And this is his words, not mine. People that he respects say, hey, I believe in the calls too. But, man, I'm here to get away from
the
all
continuity of it wore people down. In
Yeah.
the beginning, I was fine with the athletes protesting in the beginning because they have a platform. But you make your protests, you get it to a certain point, but for it to continue for weeks and months, I personally got sick of it after a while. I'm there to watch the sports. It's the work, and for the players, it's the workplace after a while. You can't be bringing all of it to the workplace. I know how important it is, but nevertheless, I mean, the fans in Kansas City, even though I thought they were out of line during a game, when the players locked arms before the national anthem, I didn't think the players should have gotten booed. I thought the fans were out of line, but it was revealing the fans are just sick of it after a while. And, you know, it comes down to it's the players' jobs to perform, you know, on the field and so on. But for football, Mac, I think it's a little bit different because the weather changes. Sunday afternoons, it starts getting cold. People tend to be more inside, especially during the daytime. So I think the NFL isn't going to miss a serious beat in popularity, but the NBA, you know, is going to have to kind of get that back a little bit too.
Yeah, they're definitely going to have to come to grips with that, especially with them starting up. It looks like in December. One last subject I want to touch with Robert, and you know, the concussion policy, the rules that have been put in place to try to limit concussions. I understand it. I know there was a lawsuit. The NFL has to protect itself. If it doesn't take certain steps, it could very well open up another lawsuit in which the NFL paid millions and millions of dollars. But something has happened because of that. Some players have warned about this, that now instead of hitting players high, because there's always that chance that the offensive receiver or running back drops his head like he's supposed to do when he's running with the football in contact, they're starting to go for the knees and the legs. And the leg injuries have come up at an alarming rate. And people are now going out for the season, not just for a couple of weeks. And it could end people's careers, period, where how bad concussions are. I played football for a long time, got my bell rung a few times. I still can function somewhat according to Jack. But anyway, I mean.
Better than average.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you. But I think it's an alarming thing. We saw a terrible penalty last week with the Giants, or maybe the week before, Jack, when the receiver lowered his head, the defender's standing there, the receiver hits the defender with his helmet, and the defender gets the penalty. So they're not calling on the offense, they're calling on the defense, and you're getting fined. You might get suspended, you might get kicked out of the game, maybe for the season, get fined. I mean, are these rules, I don't want to say right because I understand them, but is it fair to the defense? Is it fair to the players?
Well, I think the faith I have in the NFL over any other league is they're quick to make adjustments. They watch a lot of the film of the games. Remember, they put the pass interference where you can throw a flag. Then they put that in for 1 year, then they take it out. I think the league will adjust that. As far as the injuries are concerned, a lot of these are stop and start, non-contact, fluke injuries. Dak Prescott, I watched that live. That was like a fluke. He got his foot caught up. I think since that 2010, we talked about this before, collective bargaining agreement, there's less hitting, and during the offseason, there's no two-a-days, none of that stuff. That's great. The players don't want to get bruises, but you got to build those calluses. You get all these soft tissue injuries, start, stop, you're tearing ACLs. So that's I think that's the bigger issue. Now, COVID. They had no preseason. They were very limited training. Again, with the calluses, I think that plays a part into it. So I think the league will get it right. But as far as like concussions and everything, tackling techniques, new techniques are being shown. I'm starting to see better tackling this year. These past 2 weeks than I have prior to this. It seems like players are starting. It's just it's a rebooting process. You've been taught to do it one way your whole life, and then you're taught to do it another way. You're going to have some trial and error period, but I got faith it's going to work out as far as the injuries. The NFL with the trainers, there's going to be more research done at that. Remember back in the day, you get an ACL, your career is probably not going to be the same. A few years ago, AP, Adrian Peterson, tore his ACL in December. He comes back the next year. He runs for 2,000 yards. Right. Hard work, new technology, better education, understanding how to deal with these injuries.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
All right, Robert, that's it for your segment. We appreciate you coming in and giving us your information, your opinions, and your knowledge, which is great, not just in football, guys, in all sports. Go over and see Robert Butler at his site at Sports Skope. It's an awesome show. He puts a lot of effort and work into it, and check it out. You'll be surprised how good a show that is if you haven't seen it yet. So thanks again for Robert for coming on.
Hey, thanks, guys. Enjoy the game.
Yes, we will, Robert. You enjoy the day, my friend.
You too. See you, guys.
So there you go, Jack. Robert Butler joins us with his opinions. Not always agreeing with him, but
I think our Sunday football show is the best football show anywhere, in spite of us. Still the best. Because we got on great guests. Okay?
Yes, we do. We get a lot of information. We get a lot of stuff. So, Jack, we're going to head over, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to do, again, we'll do a quick commercial break where we can get out of here for a few minutes, stretch out, do whatever you got to do. Let the fans take a break from us, right?
The fans come back in a couple of minutes. We'll be back.
Yes, we will. We definitely will be back.
Got to remind them we'll be back.
Yeah, with some more great information. We're going to break down the games and especially look at the local games and have a discussion about that. That's what we're really here for. So come on back after the commercials, folks, and we'll get right back to some great football information.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma.
I love you too. Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Anna.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again.
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed. Yeah, well, Kyle's not here. How come? Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's gonna be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he gonna know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, where we bring you our NFL Sunday great pregame show, and we break down all the games. We had two great guests on, Jack. We had Anthony Cervino with Fantasy Football Faceoff, Robert Butler from Sports Skope as guests today, and they did a great job as always. And it's our turn now, Jack. It's what we get paid to do. All our money we get paid to do. Break down the game. So we're going to start off with the Broncos at the Falcons, Jack. The Broncos have shown signs of getting better. The Falcons have, I think they've won the last two games, if I'm right, or at least two out of the last three. So they're playing better. Right now, the Falcons are favored by 4. Who do you like in that game, Jack?
Boy, I mean, Denver had that miracle comeback against the Chargers last week, and that was a resurgence for their quarterback, Drew Lock. And it's funny, Drew Lock was the 6th quarterback, I believe, taken in the draft the year he was taken. That was the Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold draft. And it's ironic that Lamar Jackson, I believe, was the 5th quarterback taken in that draft. So it shows you can really get value. With that said, you got to give the games in Atlanta, you give a little edge to the Falcons. And it's interesting with Todd Gurley has been injury-free, and that's why his stock dropped a little in college, because they were concerned with health issues and so on. And so I give a little edge to the Falcons.
Well, just to point out, Jack, I believe Drew Lock went in the Daniel Jones draft the year after that, where the Giants, if they did not take Daniel Jones.
Right. Oh, yeah, right. Lamar Jackson was 5th in that draft. Yeah.
Right. The draft prior
but
to
it was
that.
a 2nd-round draft pick.
Right.
That's the point about
right.
it.
He fell. He fell. Yeah.
Daniel Jones was taken 6th overall. Dwayne Haskins 15th. And Drew Lock went something around 32nd.
Right.
Around that vicinity, yeah.
The Seahawks are at the Bills. We're going to get to that after we go through the rest of the ones. And we did talk about it a little bit with Anthony. I just want to give my thoughts and your thoughts on that. The Ravens are at the Colts. It's an interesting game. The Colts have a little resurgence. Yeah, they really have a good defense. The Ravens offense has played well, Jack, not well enough to win lately. Their defense is awesome. The Ravens, though, are only given 3 points. They're at the Colts, which means maybe it would be, if it was at the Ravens, it probably would be 6 points. I like the Ravens, Jack. I just don't think the Colts are in their level.
I'm going to tell you something. I've underrated the Colts. I mean, all along. I mean, whenever anyone talks about the elite teams, I never mentioned the Indianapolis Colts, and maybe I'd better give them a better look. I mean, they're 5-2 right now. And the
Right.
thing about the Indianapolis Colts, in a league in which the offensive lines have been terrible this year, their line has been outstanding.
Very true.
And Phillip Rivers, who we thought was past this peak and probably is, has performed well because he's been given a lot of time to throw. And also on the Ravens side, you know, Lamar Jackson hasn't been beating teams or winning records.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you consider Indianapolis at 5-2 kind of a borderline elite team in the league, this is a test for Lamar Jackson. Yeah, but you know, football is and sports is about entertainment. And with Dez Bryant coming on the active roster, even though he shouldn't be the story, let's be honest, all the headlines and the highlights are going to show if Dez Bryant catches one pass for 8 yards, that's going to be on the highlights.
Yeah, very true, Jack.
Who's going to have a bigger game today? Let me ask you, Matt. Dez Bryant or Antonio Brown? If you had to say who was going to do more, well, who would you say?
Well, just the nature of the beast, Jack, where Antonio Brown is a lot more dynamic, a lot more faster than Dez. Dez Bryant was I wouldn't say a possession receiver, but he was kind of in between possession and an elite receiver. He's a great receiver in his prime, but you're talking about Antonio Brown, who perhaps if he kept playing might have compared to Jerry Rice. So I mean,
well,
I just think
quickly, Dez Bryant became a Cowboy out of college. They didn't want to draft him. The Cowboys' war room, their scouting department, Stephen Jones, but Jerry Jones overruled everyone in drafting Dez Bryant because the Cowboy personnel directors and all of them thought there were conduct issues with Dez Bryant they didn't like. They also thought there were issues with Randy Moss, and Jerry Jones bypassed drafting Randy Moss, and he always regretted it. And he said, I'm not going to make the same mistake. And he overruled everyone, and they drafted Dez Bryant. And he was a good Cowboy for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, a top-of-the-line player. So.
Yeah. At that time, he was. I just think the dynamics of Antonio Brown and Dez Bryant are two different things.
Yeah.
And speaking of Jerry Jones, I mean, if Baker Mayfield was available, he might have took him in the draft.
Well, he wanted to take Johnny Manziel in that draft.
Right.
And he went around the room, and everyone from Stephen Jones to the rest of the personnel, they wanted to guard Zach Martin.
Right.
And Jerry Jones was looking for someone to agree with him.
Right.
He was like begging someone to agree with them. And finally, he turned to his son, Stephen Jones, the one person who could talk back to his dad and say, zip it, Dad,
Right,
Jerry will back off because they have a great relationship. And Jerry Jones said disgustingly, do you guys want to be great? Are you looking for greatness? Are you looking for someone very good?
Yeah.
And they overruled Jerry, and Zach Martin is going to be maybe a Hall of Famer. And Johnny Manziel, sadly, isn't in the league because, he
likes
had
to party.
issues where,
he likes to party, Jack. That's plain and simple. I think this is going to be a good game. A lot of people may not. The Chiefs at the Panthers. Now, I know the Panthers, this is their Super Bowl. The Chiefs shown there is certain ways that you might be able to beat them. Teams have come close. In fact, one team did it. The Chiefs are favored by 11.5. I at least like the Panthers with the points, Jack. I think, again,
Mac,
I know
you're making me hate the Panthers. I'm going to be like Stephen A. Smith hates the Cowboys on First Take.
Yes.
I'm going to start going off with the Panthers. What's this thing you have about the Carolina Panthers? They're not a local team. They're 3-5.
Right.
They're not projected to be an elite team off the bat. I understand on the Matt Rule first-year coach and potential, you can argue that they're moving in the right direction, but they weren't that bad when he took over. Christian McCaffrey is, the outstanding running back is set to return. And, listen, between Bridgewater, Robbie Anderson, him, they could put some points on the board. They're not bad defensively. Are they going to go into Kansas City and win the game? No.
Will they cover? That's the question, Jack, and that's what
10
I'm
and a
going
half
with.
points. You know, I
11
hate
and
this betting thing. At the end of the day, unless you have a bet there, who cares whether the Chiefs win by 9, 10 points? Will they cover? No.
11 and a half, Jack. 11
No,
and a half.
no. I think they'll come close to covering. Let's call it 31-20 Kansas City.
Okay, so there you go. Not only did you say they would cover, you gave me the score. I love it. All right, Lions at the Vikings. I'm confused about the Vikings this year, Jack. I'm not sure what they are. Their defense played well against Green Bay a week before. They ran the ball very well. And then other games, they look like they shouldn't even be in the NFL. The Lions, it looks like from last I saw, Matt Stafford, even though he got a concussion, passed, or was it COVID? COVID, I think it was a COVID thing. He supposedly had negative tests taken. That the last test he took, he should be playing. The Vikings are favored by 3.5. For some reason, I'm going to take the Lions, Jack.
Underachievers. I feel bad because the Vikings have a really good team, but they dug themselves a hole at 2-5. They showed what they were capable of last week, beating the Packers in Green Bay. And that's a game Green Bay wanted coming off the loss to Tampa Bay. And, you know, they have some guys banged up in the Vikings secondary. And that would certainly, you know, something that Matthew Stafford's going to take advantage of. Also, there's a little bit of a storyline. One of the Vikings' former all-pros, their edge rusher, Everson Griffin, he was highly insulted by his former coach, Mike Zimmer, calling him a good player.
Instead of a great.
He got insulted. He wanted to be called a great player. The
Right.
idea good, but I guess guys motivate themselves any way they can. Mac, if I said you're not, if someone asked me about Mac and I said he's a good, co-host, so on, Mac, you would get insulted maybe if I used the word good describing you. You want to hear me say Mac is great,
Right.
It's good. So you're great, Mac.
Yeah, my ego is
the show.
Texans and Jaguars. Anthony just pointed out that Minshew will not be playing against the Texans. The Texans are favored by 6.5, and that's probably the reason why. I guess it's really a who cares kind of game right now, I think, because especially not being local. I like the Texans, Jack.
Mac, I think I care because this has draft implications. The Jaguars need one of the elite quarterbacks, either Lawrence or Fields, going forward for next year. They're going to be in the market for quarterback big time. And the Jets might not be. They might be holding on to Darnold. And the Jaguars have only one win. So let's see how the Jaguars are the rest of the year. Now, do you want to read between the lines and get suspicious? You can. Doug Marrone, the Jacksonville Jaguar coach, said, they're trying so many new things from now on in. They're just letting it rip. That means they're experimenting. That means a bad team experiments, they're normally going to get even worse.
That's very true.
Maybe the Jacksonville Jaguar front office is letting Doug Marrone know you're going to come back as coach next year, but we wouldn't mind getting one of those high draft picks. We wouldn't mind going number 1 overall, at least number 2. Do you hear me? Without
I do.
saying it.
I don't think that any
Players
head
won't tank, but the coach might set up the personnel in a way where, it compromises their immediate chances of winning. Houston should win that game.
Yes, but even with the head coach, Jack, I think if he did come back and he did do something that looked even a little suspicious, his coaching days would be over after that.
Not suspicious. They're not tanking, Mac. You can
listen, Jack,
guys, positions, personnel, and they can't do anything about it.
Anybody worth their salt that knows coaching, especially in the NFL, if all of a sudden a bad team starts trying double reverses, putting different personnel in there, and comes away from any kind of plan, just to try to win a game on a trick play. And
Matt,
and
did you see the Cowboy game last week? They were double
yes.
reversing, getting me dizzy with their personnel.
I understand that. I understand that, Jack. And I know for sure the Cowboys aren't. The coach is not going to try and tank, because to be a head coach, Jack, you have a little pride too. Anyway, the Raiders at the Chargers.
I'm not saying he's going to try to tank. Let me just cut in, but I'm just saying it's, a little suspicious. Go ahead.
It sounds like that, Jack. The Chargers are favored over the Raiders by 1.5. I don't understand that. I think the Raiders have been playing great, solid football. The Chargers are exciting. Their young quarterback, I think, is a keeper. But you still got to win the games. I definitely like the Raiders.
I'll tell you, the news about the Raiders this week was the penalties for COVID, breaking the rules financially. They had a 6th-round draft choice taken away. And the 6th-round draft choices, sometimes they make the team, sometimes they don't. But you don't like any capital taken away like that. So it bothered them within the Raider organization of them losing that draft choice. And I was surprised, I don't know about you, Mac, by the trade deadline that the Raiders didn't do anything. I mean, the John Gruden coach team always seems the type that's going to take a little more chances, but the Raiders made no moves at the trade deadline, and then playoff contention. Chargers are, they've had some tough losses this year.
Yeah,
there's ability there. I mean, there's upside, going forward. Has anyone heard of Tyrod Taylor's situation, the way he lost his job?
Yeah, they know about it.
On the bench, no one talks about him. And it's, but the Chargers have their guy of the future.
There's no doubt about it.
I'm going to go with the Raiders in that game. I mean, they need it more. And it gets to a point with some of these teams, they lose so many close games. It's hard to keep the motivation going. It's hard to have heartbreak week after week. And they lost on the last play of the game to Denver last week, the Chargers. It's hard to get up after that.
Steelers and the Cowboys, Jack. I don't think it's even a question of who wins this game. It's just by how much. The only thing I can see is the Steelers taking the Cowboys so lightly that the Cowboys stay close, but I don't see that happening.
It could get to be very ugly there. I mean, the Steeler defense is, hopefully the Cowboy defense comes up with a big game so they don't get blown out. But there's no scenario where you can actually see the Cowboys winning the game. Wouldn't that be a shock if they did?
Yeah.
Beating Steelers lose their record. I don't think the Cowboys get more than 7 points. If they get a touchdown, either 7 points, a couple of field goals. The question is whether it's going to be a boring, tight ball control game for the Steelers, where they're going to beat the Cowboys 20-6, so that they beat them 38-6. Type of thing.
I definitely agree with that. Robert Butler said he thinks the Bills will beat Seattle this week. They are at home. The Bills are still in the race to win the AFC East. They want to prove that they belong in the playoffs. The Seahawks are just they're a dynamite team. I mean, I hate to say it. I would love to see the Bills win here, but until they put up a good game, I'm not sure. I like the Seahawks beating the Bills.
Well, the Bills' problem is they have no pass rush.
Right.
And having no pass rush against Russell Wilson is a very bad thing, because they're not going to flush him out of the pocket and make him run. And if they get a little bit of a pass rush on him, he could roll out. Russell Wilson is having a very big game against that against the Bill defense, which was one of the best defenses in the league going into the season. The question is, can Josh Allen hold serve? Can he have a big game against Seattle? Josh Allen's going to have to throw more than he has in recent weeks. And if you know Josh Allen, he's either going to be great or he's going to be erratic. I don't think you're going to have any in-betweens. And with that said, I don't think a team that lacks the pass rush of the Bills is going to beat Seattle.
Well, Kyler Murray did show that a running quarterback can. That Seattle defense isn't the best. The shot I have with the Bills winning that is that Josh Allen does make some big runs.
He does.
And make some big plays down.
Their last 4 weeks, they haven't played particularly well. I mean,
Right.
They lost the 2 games, then they beat a Jet team 18-10. You're talking about the Jets 18-10. And Cam Newton was, driving towards the go-ahead touchdown late in the game, at the very least the tying field goal, and then fumbled the ball.
Yeah.
So they haven't been playing well the last few weeks, but maybe this is it. They snap out of it against Seattle. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills won the game, but I like the Seahawks.
Me too. The Giants at Washington. The Giants did sneak by Washington the first game. The Giants have been playing well. Washington, even in their losses, have been playing well. 2 new coaches. It looks like the teams are starting to turn towards their, the way they coach and their system. I mean, it's not, again, this is not a game that will, be something that we will look at and say, oh my God, this team's going to win the division. But I think it's going to be an entertaining game. Washington is favored by 3.5. I think that's too much. I could see Washington beating the Giants. I really could. But I like the Giants to win this game. I think this may be the start of a winning streak for them. They got a few games that if they do start winning this week, they may be able to do maybe a 3-game winning streak. Washington, though, Jack, Washington's defense is no joke. And I don't know, the strong pass rush on Washington. They're going to have to, again, the Giants are going to have to run the ball somewhat to make that pass rush kind of respect the run. Washington, again, I think we got a little advantage on offense, compared to theirs. But the defense on both teams have been playing well. I see the close game. I see maybe the Giants pulling out maybe a 21-17 win or something like that.
It's going to be a close game. I like the Redskins this time around. The last game was a thriller. The Redskins went for the 2-point conversion and the win at the end of the game. The Giants stopped them. They got the win there. The balance of power in the NFC East, it's not obvious, but it's slowly changing. The last few years, it's been the Eagles and the Cowboys, with the Giants and the Redskins in the rear. I think a year or 2 from now, you're going to see the Giants and the Redskins up there with the Eagles and the Cowboys, a little behind them. But you said it best a moment ago. Washington's defense is no joke.
Yeah.
I mean, Washington's defense is gelling. And with the trebles that Daniel Jones has had recently, that's not a good defense to go against, right now at this moment. But I look for a close, competitive, fun game.
Yeah, I do too.
Washington winning.
Do you see? I mean, that the linebacker for the Redskins got ejected against Dallas when he hit Dalton while he was going down. I don't know if it was on purpose. I don't know. I don't think he tried to hit him in the head. I just think he wanted to get a lick on him before he went down, and he didn't do it. It was part of the slide, I think, because he slid feet first. But do you see the Giant coaches saying if anything like that happens to Daniel Jones or the Giants offensive lineman just in general talking about that, if there is a late shot or maybe a questionable shot on Jones, do you see the offensive line getting really upset and the possibility of some kind of discussion happening on the field, Jack?
Well, I think the thing what happened with Andy Dalton woke up the rest of the league, that they're going to be aware that if their quarterback is hit flagrantly, they've got to spring into action in some way, shape, or form. But a lot of these defensive players who hit the quarterback when he's practically on the ground, there's no reason to go hard at a guy, when you're 6 inches off the ground because he's going down. I think there has to be a deception rule put in that the NFL doesn't have, that a quarterback can't dip down like he's going down or fake going out of bounds and then actually not do it.
I agree with that.
You can't force the defender to ease up a little and then deceive him, because these guys are going at it at full speed defensively. And now you're asking them in a split second to turn the switch off. And when you pull up short, that's when you're most likely to get injured, when you're running at top speed.
Yeah.
That's like the equivalent of driving a car and slamming on the brakes.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Yeah.
And great points, Jack. I agree with that 100%. I've seen Patrick Mahomes fake going out of bounds and them let up and him running for a touchdown. I've seen that happen a lot.
No,
And
can't be allowed.
If you're going to ask the defense to do that, you got to ask the offense to also make adjustments. So we got our last game, Jack, that we're going to talk about. The Jets against the Patriots. We discussed about Cam Newton a couple shows. I think this is a perfect opportunity to let the kid get in there and see what he's got for the Patriots. I really believe that would be a good move. I don't think they'll do it. I think they're going to stick with Cam Newton. The Jets, I think this is their first real chance to get a win. With the Patriots kind of, shaking in the corner there, kind of wobbling. I mean, they might be able to catch him with a puncher's chance, Jack. You heard that, Bach?
They absolutely. I don't know why. I think the Jets have a chance in this game.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a close, competitive game. But I'm going to tell you, if New England loses and Cam Newton doesn't play really well, he's done as quarterback in New England. I mean, that's it. And I'm not talking about just for now, I mean, for good. I mean, I'm not saying he's not going to be on the roster and finish out the season. He probably will be, but they're making changes. It is going to be so ugly in New England if they're to lose to the Jets.
I agree.
And this is the Jets' opportunity to actually get a win here. And if the Jets do win this game, everyone has an eye on the draft. Let's face it. This changes things. Once the Jets get one win, it changes the whole situation with where teams might go, because there are other games to be played and other wins to be had. So it's all really interesting. I mean, New England should win the game. I think it's going to be a close game, but if New England should lose this game to the Jets, and listen, Adam Gase wants to win this game. They're not thinking draft picks or so on going forward. It's Adam Gase. It's been a very ugly situation, the Jets, and
I agree with that, Jack, 100%. I do give the Jets the puncher's chance here. I mean, this would be something that could maybe get confidence back in the team. It's a winnable game, and I would have said that in the beginning of the season that even with the Patriots quarterback woes right now and their offensive woes.
New England 26, the Jets 23. That'll be.
I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna say the Jets 17, New England 16. That's how close it's going to be. So I'm gonna throw my support just for this game, because we do cover the Patriots and I do love Bill Belichick. I'm just for this game though, Jack. I'm gonna go ahead and throw my support behind the Jets. So that wraps up our show, Jack. Another Sunday football show, our pregame show. Our two guests, we thank again Anthony Cervino and Robert Butler for joining us. We'll be back on Wednesday, folks. Jack will not be with me Wednesday. He's sitting out. He's got a contract dispute with me, and
I'm kind of holding out. I mean, you're pulling a Golden Tate on me, because I'm talking back to you. You have me with the practice squad, in the back for Wednesday.
Right. So Jack will be sidelined Wednesday. He's got some personal things he's got to take care of. We do have Keith Engel has said he will join us. He's the TGI sports host, very popular. He'll be with me Wednesday as co-host to fill in for Jack Hirsch. I don't think he'll fill Jack's shoes, but I think he'll give it his best shot.
Yeah, hey, listen, he's a heck of a fill-in. I mean, there's a guy with experience who knows his stuff.
Yes, he does. He's well versed in all sports, and he has a great show, TGI Sports. Check it out. He's on our website. I want to talk about that for a brief moment. We do have a website up, macandjacksports.com. It's called Mac's Sports Insiders. Jack Hirsch is on that site with all his escapades and escalades and all the words I can think of. Great boxing writer over the decades, and of course, being former president of the Boxers Writers Association. And we have all our insider guests there with links to their sites and their information. So check that out when you get a chance. Again, we're on Facebook Live, we're on YouTube Live, we're on Twitch Live. We have an Instagram account. If you get a chance, check those all out. All informative, all very good sites. So we'll see you all Wednesday with our next show, our sports celebration show. And enjoy the games today, Jack, and the folks out there. And we'll be seeing you back on Wednesday. And again, have a great day, everybody, and enjoy the football. I'm glad football is back, Jack.
Yeah.